We just started talking to ourselves early and I forgot to hit the go live button. We're back. Me, I'm here. Welcome to Roundtable Progress and Podcast Network's coverage of NXT. Also coincided with Wikipedia pinfalls. Like I was starting to say earlier, but while we started talking about all this stuff about coexisting and everything, um, but I'll do the same intro again. It wouldn't be this way without starting back Wicked Crazy Pinfalls or streaming anywhere without the one, the only Fightful Zone, Rob Wilkins. What's up, bud? How you doing?
Hey man, thanks for having me. I'm glad you're back. It's good to be back on doing a show with you. It's been a long time, and
Yeah, we've been
this is
talking for 8 minutes just without being
yeah,
on live just for us.
yeah. So it's kind of like Groundhog Day. So I'm just kind of repeating what I said, but it's good to be back on with you. I mean, this is where I started. My first time ever on a podcast was with you on Wicked Crazy Pinfalls. So kind of like a full circle thing, being back here. It's greatly appreciated. You know me, if I can make it work, I'm gonna be here for you anytime I can because I wouldn't be at Fightful without you, in my opinion. So you got that bug like in me, like to like realize that I can do this. And in my opinion, I get to do a show on Fightful.com, which has been the best place for wrestling news in the past, I would say. Well, I've liked it since I've started going to Fightful.com, but I think it's been the best website to get news, but I am biased, but I am very glad to be here and thank you so much for having me
I,
again.
I, I'm I'm not gonna complain. I said this years ago. Believe it or not, as crazy as it is, it'll be 5 years since my mom's been gone. And I said that Fightful, after everything I was going for, was the key thing that changed my world and made me do something like this. You and Sean and Warren and a lot of other people pushed me to do this. So in a sense, I should thank you for that. But anyways, what I was telling people while we were chatting for 8 minutes was I haven't been doing this because of a few other things. Like for me recently, since November, it's been mostly health ish stuff I've been trying to focus on. My ankle's not in great shape. My toes not in great shape. Physically, I'm not in great shape. So, and also up on in my head. So I'm trying to fix everything and stuff. I think, and my doctor's starting to think that maybe I had what they call a cognitive seizure. It's kind of a new thing that they're trying to figure out. But nonetheless, I've always would pop on here or in the chats and stuff, watch you and Maggie, your success, and watch everybody and stuff pop in when I can. And, it's also difficult because, having a son who's 18 months, who's so rambunctious, this kid's got such a big motor, Rob. Oh my fucking God. Oops, sorry. I swear I shouldn't be. And I'm apologizing for that. But it's just, I, I'm so proud of this kid and I'm so excited. But for me, this past year, since also to him, you guys, if you need to talk to somebody, dude, yeah, I know, Sinner, I'm sorry. Um, but if something like that, where if you didn't push me to go to shows, I wouldn't have gone to the ROH show right after Brody was born. I wouldn't have gone to War Games. I wouldn't have gone to the Battleground and stuff like that. And I got to, and segue into the first match. Now, the way we're going to do it here is different than everybody else because we're going to talk about this storylines more so than the match itself. Because the story for me, wrestling's all about stories. The matches are key cogs on it to push it, but mostly there's other things, bits and pieces that are more important. And we're going to review mostly all the stories and stuff and that connects and how we will get to one point. It's like reading a book for pretty much. For me, Battleground was a major changing point for NXT because of the fact that you had Mello as the champion against Breaker. You had Trick outside, not even interfering once, not touching anything or anything near or getting involved or anything. The Dijak and Dragunov match was amazing. I thought that was close to being the match of the year for the last year. But of course, I was being biased. I was watching it. But what they did after the cameras went off was even more so. And I've posted the picture numerous times of Trick being with taking a picture of Lily because it was her first wrestling show. it's something she'll remember for the rest of her life, and that's more important. But with going into the segue to this, the first match was Anilfrey and Blade versus Trick Mellow Gang, as they call themselves. And the thing is that this story is starting to build up quicker and quicker now towards the point where one of them is going to turn. Now, we were talking a second ago, and you were mentioning how Williams is going to be working twice at Vengeance, possibly, and it makes more sense than anything. But where do you see this story? Like I was saying, do you see it go towards Stand and Deliver? Do you see at Vengeance it changes, or in between then? Because we have call-ups coming down the pike after Mania, but we also have other things going on too.
Yeah, so what I think's going to happen is they hinted at it on Tuesday that Trick will likely wrestle twice at Vengeance Day. And what I said was everybody's been planning on Carmelo being the one that turns on Trick. I think it's going to be vice versa. I think what's going to happen is they're going to win the Dusty Cup. And I think Trick's going to turn on Carmelo after, because I don't think he's going to, as much as I think he'd be a great champion in NXT, I don't think he's going to win the title at Vengeance Day. And I think he's going to be pissed off about that and irritated. And I think that's going to get him to turn on Carmelo. Because the one thing that I've learned with WWE that they do, and it's very smart that they do this with most people, is they want them to go through a heel phase in NXT before they move them up. Carmelo Hayes and Trick have gone through that phase, but I think they want to see Trick Williams do that by himself without Carmelo Hayes. So I think it's real possible we see Carmelo Hayes be called up right after, basically right after Stand and Deliver. I believe we're going to see the main event of Stand and Deliver be Carmelo Hayes versus Trick Williams for the title, because I think Trick will win the title before Stand and Deliver, but I think he'll win it after Vengeance Day, if that makes sense. So
no, it makes perfect sense, because
that's just my opinion. And I think part of that's how I would book it, because that way Carmelo loses in NXT and he just goes straight into Raw or SmackDown, wherever they put him on, because he's going to be a star once they let loose. We got to see what he did on Friday on SmackDown. He was awesome. I know the match ended early because of potential. It was called correctly. The referee did the right thing. He immediately ended the match, so that was a good thing when it looked like both men could have been hurt. But that's my theory. I think we're gonna see Carmelo and Trick win the Dusty Cup, and I think that's just my prediction. But I think that's where it's headed. I basically, in the long run, I say it's heading to Stand and Deliver for those two to have a match.
I mean, for me, it's going to be one of those things with Melo and Trick where it's just going to lead up to, like you said, Williams is going to turn over, or the better half is that you could have Hayes turn on Trick at the end of their match at the Dusty Cup to make him injured to the point where he can't face, Ilya, and it sets Williams off and everything else. And Ilya's like, I have no opponent, and somebody that is not even on the roster that they might be coveting in the free agent pool or whatnot, I don't know, could come in and take that shot. Or, Alexis.
That's a good idea too. I didn't think of that.
Yeah, so Alexis King could actually walk right in. The formerly known as Brian Pillman Jr. could just waltz in. There's multiple pieces here that makes it more understanding how it goes. But the interesting part about it is that they're driving the fact that this is like an old school, and Sean's running the product, so this kind of makes it interesting. Him and Kevin, when they were Diesel, Kevin was Diesel back in the early 90s kind of thing, where Sean turned on Diesel, if I remember right. Of course, I'm going to be 43, so it's kind of hard to have a good memory at times. That's the other thing they're trying to fix. But it's awesome to see them pulling some of the old stories back and making it more relevant. But of course, years ago when we were talking about NXT, you and me and a couple other people, when 2.0 was, a lot of people were like, this thing is going to be crap. And now the way things are going, it kind of has the beginning feels of the old black and gold NXT, which is great because you have something to like sink your teeth in. And I'm the only one will die on that hill, by the way. So,
that's the thing. The show, like all three shows, and when I say three shows, I'm talking, well, four. I'm talking Raw, SmackDown, NXT, and Dynamite, and I'm not including Collision, but I mean, all three brands, I would say, they all go through phases where not every episode's going to be the best, and that's the thing about NXT. They've had a lot of great weeks lately. Sometimes there's a hit and miss, and right now I think for the most part they're firing on all cylinders, so it's a good thing right now.
It makes it the only thing that Fightful reported where you worked for reported. I think it was Sean that reported it, that this is the first time in this year that, even though it's been a short couple of weeks, that NXT has dropped under a certain amount of ratings. They have 700,000 in ratings, which is very phenomenal considering the fact that people were talking about the whole what was it, the Tuesday Night Wars, the Wednesday Night Wars with AEW for a while, the beginning of the 2.0 era and stuff. And now, you look at the ratings and stuff, because people say ratings don't matter. It kind of matters in television, where to give it a barometer where your viewership is going. It's awesome to see NXT thriving and stuff, and it's just crazy how it goes. So,
yeah,
what's your opinion of Oberfenning as North American champion within a week of winning that the breakout star contract?
The dude is going to be absolutely just fire. He's going to be a star, and I mean, what else can you say? He's doing great on the mic. He's big. He's powerful. I mean, he reminds me of so many different people. He has a Batista look to him, like as far as like size wise and muscles. I think he's good on the mic so far, so he's going to be a stud. He really is. He's going to be a stud for the company. I'm glad they put the title on him, and I'm glad they're giving him some mic work. He's going to be good. And I'm anxious I shouldn't say anxious, but I'm excited to see where they go with him. I think the sky's the limit with him. I really do. And he is damn good at what he does already. So he's 25 years old. And I mean, he's going to be coming into his prime pretty soon here, in my opinion. I mean, a couple of years, but he looks good already. So in my opinion, he's already impressed me more than oh goodness, what's his name? I can't remember his name. He's the guy with Robert Stone right now. He's either way.
I know who you're talking about. Yeah. I just can't say the name off the top of my head.
Yeah, he's already impressed me more.
Kyle Bloom's kid.
So yeah. So anyways, but yeah, Oba is going to be great. He's already great. And I mean, it's really early to say where he's going. I liked his little thing with his little back and forth with Dragon Lee this past week. They did really good. They did really good making him look like they made him look like a chump. Basically, they made Oba look like hey, this day and age is over of the open challenge matches. I'm done with that. So it's one of those things where it's good. They're going a good route with him. And I was thinking it's Von Wagner who I was thinking about. So
yeah.
I mean, that's really all I can say about
it. It's funny because like Dragon Lee is like the in between right now. He's kind of like where Gargano Ciampa was doing, where they were going in between Raw, SmackDown, and NXT for a period of time. So he's going back and forth. like the LWO is right now. They're going back and forth, which is great because it gives him more TV time and more interaction. But I think he basically had a point that he never got a rematch for it. And now you have Oba literally wanting to dodge him a little bit, which is going to end up biting him in the butt because he'll end up having to defend that vengeance anyways, right? At some point, that's going to end up happening. I put in a private chat with the Roundtable crew about how they should put Almost with him if they bring him up originally as a tag team in about a few years. And before everybody criticized me before it, I know there's people going to. He's going to be growing into a great talent, an immense talent in NXT and WWE overall. But if Almost is there and Almost has more and more seasoning to it, and he's like a pure veteran, even though they're talking about possibly making him a special attraction, it helps Almost get out of that role of being quote unquote a special attraction, and it gives Oba somebody to lean on to learn from. So I mean, you've got a little bit of both, but right now that he's going to be NXT champion probably this time next year. If they keep him on a steady path and just feed him opponents that are credible, it's just going to be fun to watch.
I see your point, but I think the best thing for Oba is to keep him separate right now. Like, let him do his own thing. If any, because he doesn't need a mouthpiece, and we know. And granted, anything can change. We could see Omos and MVP kind of split up eventually. You never know. But right now, I think it's too early to tell with Oba and thinking about putting him with anybody. Omos, I mean, they haven't put him on TV in months, so I mean, he's just been wrestling live events. But I mean, and it's real early. Things change. We know that. I mean, they tried with AJ Styles and Omos, and it just didn't work. So, and if you can't.
So do you think like next for Oba, it would make more sense just to, let's say we're in January, by like November, you give him an NXT title shot at that point?
Oh, I would. Yeah, if not sooner, he'll probably get one. I mean, the way they're already promoting him and the way the crowd goes for him, it wouldn't surprise me if we see it by this summer. Honestly, like a title shot. I don't know if he'll win it, but I can definitely see the way it's going. I could see it going that route.
Pretty much, he seems like he's more so. And we got a bot. He seems like he's more so like Hook a little bit in the spec that with Hook, with especially last night, he was basically a diamond in the rough, and he finally just got that polish and shine, and now look what happened. So I see what everybody's pointing at. I think it's going to be a long, drawn out process because for me, when Breaker came out, they were shoving Breaker down everybody's throat. And yes, he's really good, but now it feels like he's kind of gotten all hype, did everything right, did everything, and now he's just sitting there waiting. So, I mean, I don't want them to do the same thing with Oba, just bring him out there and just holding on to him for the long period of time if they really think he's ready. But I mean, what do you think about the whole thing of them doing the underground now? The whole NXT underground.
I don't
bringing
like
back some of the old school stuff there.
I mean, I'm okay like with it being here and there, but I don't want it to be. I definitely don't want it to be a weekly thing. And I would, if they do it at all, I'd prefer it to be like once or twice a year at max. I just was never a big fan of it myself, but that's just me.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to see what they do with this. I mean, Eddie Thorpe was in this, and Dijak came in and basically said that he'll take care of Bear Hill himself. But then the next segment ended up what we were talking about earlier about, Trick Mello, about how they were hyped up about winning their match against Denolfer and Blade. And, Dragunov shows up and says, hey, by the way, I got cleared. You have your NXT championship match at Vengeance Day. It's like, okay, now you have to figure that out. And we've already talked about that, but that interaction where, he said it looked at him and be like, dude, what the hell? kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's fun to see these three play on each other and stuff. And they were doing it before Dragunov got injured and everything and stuff. It's just so good. I can't wait for them to match up. The other thing I just thought of, it could be a triple threat that they could throw into the mix and make, Hayes and Williams turn on each other. It's anything's possible. So this second match is Lyra Valkyrie, Tatum Paxley, Lola Vice, and Elektra Lopez. I mean, Tatum Paxley is doing a phenomenal job and stuff. I said to a friend of mine, she's kind of like the NXT's current version of Nikki Cross, how Cross basically pops up everywhere and creeps people out, but she does it in such a way where it makes it meaning a lot more than just her popping in and just looking around and popping down like a whack-a-mole. It's just so interesting, and I can't wait to see where they go from here. Obviously, this match is going to dissolve anyways. Like here, Valkyrie and Paxley win, and towards the tail end of it, I think, sorry, it's been a long day. I think the fact that with everything breaking down with Lola and Elektra, it's going to be then to at Vengeance Day for her opportunity at the Breakouts contract to get that shot with the women's champion. And that would be very interesting considering the Battle Royal happened also. What are your thoughts on Paxley doing an amazing job? And, Valkyrie as the champion is really good. Everybody in this match and their stories are in the perfect spots as they are right now.
Yeah, NXT's women's division has been absolutely just slaying it, in my opinion. They've been just killing it. They've been really good. Lyra Valkyrie being a good champion. We're going to see her take on Roxanne Perez at Vengeance Day. So we got that going on. And we already know Roxanne, there's a possibility she might do Royal Rumble again. You never know. But they've all been killing it. Elektra Lopez has been really good on the mic with her segments that she's done with Lola. Tatum Paxley, like you said, she's been great. She's awesome. Even Kiana James has been really, really solid. And the thing is we've actually seen the Tiffany Stratton and Fallon. That's
Fallon Henley, that whole segment last week with Tiffany being a farmhand was funny.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it was really good. Granted, this might surprise you, but I saw some negative reaction to it on Twitter, but I was entertained, and guess what? That's what WWE is shooting for. They want to entertain. They don't, for the most part, they don't care what Twitter says. They do to an extent, but not as much as people tend to believe they do.
For me, it makes more sense because you've got, isn't the Dusty Women's Cup coming up soon? They haven't announced it, but it makes more sense if they're going to do it after Veterans Day.
Yeah, it's coming soon. I'm not sure when, but it's coming.
Well, I was making a prediction that Tiffany and Henley will team up and they'll win the women's Dusty Cup because that makes more sense. They're pretty much the strongest women's team right there, unless you bring, Chance and what's her name, Kaden Carter down in order and have them as part of it and try to defend the titles and put that on the line instead of a contract.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. But right now you have them. They're both WWE women.
No, they're all three brands champions because they unified the NXT Women's Championship.
That's true. That is true. Didn't think of that.
So they're the unified Women's Championship. They're just using the WWE Women's Tag titles to make them more prevalent.
Yep, exactly. I didn't think of that part.
So, Rich Holland versus Coffee. Holland on a redemption track. That's what the story they're going with is. It's interesting to see after the whole thing with Elio that changed his perception, like the whole thing of him injuring Ilio, him being injured previously with the whole War Games match with Pat McAfee and all of them and stuff. It's pretty cool to see how it progressed and him being in this match. I mean, Coffee gets a drop kicks Holland into the turnbuckle. Holland wins via pinfall. It's going to progress a match where you're going to end up having, Gallus versus Holland and some aspect with two other people with them in the NXT division. And just because Tyler Bates is officially now a main roster talent. So it'd be fun to see that again, but just in a different aspect. But what do you think of the possibilities of Holland being a champion within this year? You're mute, bud.
Sorry about that. I don't
I was like, you're muted.
I don't see that happening for now. I mean, I don't, not that he wouldn't be a good champion. I just don't see him doing that in NXT. I think this is just like a temporary thing. I could see him working with Sheamus when Sheamus comes back. So I think this is just a temporary thing for Ridge Holland to do something in NXT. I don't think he'll be there long.
I think it would be a good idea for him to stay with NXT for a lot longer than a short period of time, just because of the fact that, one, it gets him more on TV than being on with Pete Dunne and Sheamus and stuff, being stuck in a tag team with Pete Dunne, which I'm happy about that they're getting rid of the Butch name, by the way, and going back to the way he was supposed to be. But it's just amazing to see the progression of how Holland wants to be pushed and get opportunities. And a lot of people don't get that, which is fine because he deserves it. He works hard and stuff, and he's helping out the talent down in NXT also. It's a win-win situation, basically.
Yep, exactly.
We get anonymous video and NXT video. JC Jane wishes Thea Hale and Carmen Pevek good luck in the Battle Royal. We know who wins that, but still I want to talk about that with a couple other things. LWO with Selena Vega against Duke Hudson. Riley Osborne and Andre Chase in the corner in the first match of the 2024 Dusty's Cup. Obviously, the Trick Mellow was the second match of the night. It ends up with the LWO winning it with a 450 splash to pick up the victory. It's interesting to see Chase U deteriorate after they had like this high end run for a little bit, but seeing Andre Chase in a panic mode and stuff, and JC Jane trying to take point and take over it almost feels like the captain's going down with the ship and the crew is basically upheaving everything he hopes for. So I wouldn't be surprised that you see Duke Hudson turn on Andre Chase at some point.
I actually think it'll be vice versa there. I think it's time for Andre Chase to do the heel thing. That's just my opinion. But you never know, because I'm not really good at the predictions. That's not breaking news if you've ever watched my prediction show. So I'm just going with the way I would book things. But yeah.
Well, you're not wrong, because the draft we did for a few years ago for WWE, we hit on some and we're off on some, but the majority of the time you are right on a lot of them. So give you more credit on your predictions than you are.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, my pay-per-view predictions is what I'm talking about. That I would honestly tell people if they were going to bet, do whatever the opposite I say, because that's usually how it goes. I mean, really bad. I think I can't remember the last show I did, or no, it wasn't too long ago. I want to say it was. I want to say it might have been Survivor Series where I got maybe 1 or 2 out of 3, or 1 and 2 out of the 5. It wasn't good. So, in AEW, I like severely failed, like bad on Full Gear. So,
but also the Wicked Crazy tournament, you did pretty good too. So I mean, you can't fault it on that stuff too.
That is true. Yeah.
So yeah, LWO wins by via pinfall. The family gets together with Andrea Rizzo. Sorry, I am bad with names a lot of the time, and encourages them to pay attention to the main event tonight.
I love her accent.
The whole Italian kind of
Yeah.
accent kind of thing. It's interesting to see somebody who can actually not like who learns it by accents. It's like a British person learning an American accent and stuff, the regionalism stuff. It's interesting to see how their monikers and their tones change with it.
Yeah.
Von Wagner wants the shot at the Heritage Cup. Fine. They have to get the cup off of Noam Dar somehow. They've given Nathan Frazier it. They've a shot at it. They've given a few other people and stuff, and some crazy shenanigans happen. So Dar keeps it. It's well overdue. I equate the ROH, one of the ROH titles. I think what is it? One of the guys in the you would know this because of it, but
Oops, sorry, you got to repeat that. My audio cut out.
it's fine. I was saying like with the Heritage Cup, they have because that Wagner wants a shot at it. They have to get it off of
Noam Dar. Yeah.
Dar because it's been on him for a long time, and it kind of reminds me of one of the RH titles that they have, where it's just the same kind of aspect as the Heritage Cup, but it's well overdue. If Wagner takes it, great, but there's got to be somebody else. I would love if they don't set up Alexis King into that position. I would love to see Alexis King versus Noam Dar for that Heritage Cup and see what King can do with it to make it more up there, because Dar's doing an amazing job with it. But right now, as it stands, it's just sitting around collecting dust because he's doing it at multiple matches, but it's not like meaningful enough. I don't know what you're thinking, but that's how I see it.
I can see that. And Noam Dar is a hell of a wrestler, so it's one of those things where I'm always happy to see him on my TV. I don't really like the character aspect of where they're going, but it's one of those things where if they decide to take the title off of him, I hope they have another plan for him. I don't want him to lose the title, or I keep saying title, but the cup. I don't want him to lose the cup and then not see him on TV. A lot of people don't remember that this guy used to wrestle on Raw, so I mean, he was on Raw. He was with Alicia Fox, Alicia Fox was
for a period of time.
LA. So I mean, the guy, and plus he's been wrestling for a while. He's really good, even outside of when he was in the WWE. He's fire. I mean, he trains people. I mean, he's like one of the big guys in NXT, like people that they can go to, wrestlers can go to for advice. Him, along with Drew Gulak, that's another person that people can go to. I just hope they have something for him if he loses that title. So otherwise, I just say keep that cup with them and do your thing, do what they're doing.
So the next thing that happened was Dijak versus Bear Hill. It was alluded to in the NXT Underground. Dijak obviously wins this. The story doesn't push much other than having Joe Gacy out there and stuff. It's interesting to see Gacy's collapse with Schism, and now he's doing his own thing, which is great. There's no it feels like they're trying to figure out where to put that piece where he is into certain things. Him and Dijak, if they have a match of vengeance, would be a phenomenal match. It would be this year's version of Dijak and Dragunov. So, I mean, it's just going to be fun to see the progression of their story if this is how it goes down to it. I mean, you've got one amazing guy in Dijak, and you've got Gacy, two top tier guys that in any company that will literally let it go.
And that reminds me, Joe Gacy's another guy that people can go to. He's been wrestling for a while. I mean, he was in a stable in Evolve with Eddie Kingston, Swerve Strickland, and Kobe Carino, Steve Carino's kid. So I mean, the guy's been around for a while and he's good. So the NXT has some really good people.
So basically, Briggs talks to JBL also during this the whole vignette of this. says he sees a lot of potential in Briggs. Briggs is one of those guys that's been in NXT since the beginning of the 2.0 era, and the sky's the limit for him. If he's going solo, it wouldn't shock me eventually him at some point.
My thing is, I want to know why all these wrestlers are starting to try to look like Magnum TA. Between him and Hangman, I don't understand it. But hey, Magnum TA was a hell of a wrestler. He wasn't around the business long, so a lot of people don't know him. But yeah, I mean, I like Briggs and Jensen. I actually like them a lot. I wish they didn't separate them, and I hope they don't in the long run. But JBL being with him will help him with mic skills. I think they're going to have JBL manage him for a little while. That way he can get. This is again not. I don't know if that's what they're doing. I haven't heard anything. I don't know anything. I'm just going based off what I think they're going to do. I think that's just the best way to go, in my opinion.
No, I agree. But I think that eventually, if they want to do something and make a twist out of it, they can make Briggs and Henley get back into a situation where they both just happen to intersect again, and Jensen just is trying to feel out what's out there. He's been in some of the TV stuff, but it's just as a background character, which is sad because he's literally just a phenomenal guy. With him as a tag team was very entertaining for me, at least.
Yeah.
So they're talking about, another vignette, a quarter catch vignette. NXT next week coming up. We'll talk about this next week about the Vengeance Day contract signing for Valkyrie, and we all know it's going to be Pop Rocks herself, Roxanne Perez. And then the winners of tonight's main event, plus Braun Breaker and Corbin versus Nathan Frazier and Axiom. Sorry, it's getting there with me. I'm getting older. So the number one contendership match, the women's battle royal plus the fatal 4-way. All the participants, you got Perez, Davenport, Dolan, Hale, Henley, Jordan, James, Dame, Turner, Lash Legends, Jackson, just basically the entire women's roster there, including Tatum Paxley and stuff. So the order of the way things happened is that Jackson was eliminated, Rizzo and stuff. I won't go into all of it because that will take us a while and stuff. But
yeah, and the one thing too that they added another person, Maddie Rinkowski, who was known as Rin Sinclair, now in NXT. She's a hell of a wrestler. You've seen her on AEW, Dark AEW, so she's good, and she's going to be a great asset in NXT.
So eventually we get into the fatal 4-way aspect. You get Perez, James, Henley, and Jordan, and Roxanne Perez wins the match. I like how she's turning into Cora Jade a little bit in aspects of it, the dark clothes and everything, the very, very intense version of herself. And it's going to be fun to see her and Valkyrie go at it at Vengeance Day. We'll talk about that next week about how that will go and stuff like that. But the major announcement that came out, multiple news outlets and Fightful also announced that Cora Jade suffered an injury over the weekend. Yeah. And the crazy part about all is that it was her birthday weekend also. So that's really hard to swallow. She got it at a local show, a house show that happened. For me, though, it was, like I said to you guys, it's more so important because even though the women's division is stacked, they were setting her up to be the next women's champion and stuff. And now we have to wait a year. Hopefully she comes back safely and stuff and just sees how everything progresses. But I mean, this is like the second injury.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry to cut you off there. The one thing that I would say is, yeah, absolutely. I hate that she tore her ACL because I enjoy her. I think she's really good. I've been able to see her wrestle before she was in NXT in person, and she was really good. and she still is good. And I think her being away, granted, she was already away for a few months before just coming back, but I think maybe with her being gone a little while, that'll make her even bigger when she gets back, more popular. I think that'll help her in the long run. I think it'll do wonders for her. I think it's actually. I'm never going to say an injury is good by any means. Never going to say that. Character wise, I think this will help her um, move up to another level when she comes back, because people will be excited to see her again, because she's really well liked. Even as a heel, she gets a great reaction, and I think that reaction, because people will miss her, will just go even higher. Look at Bailey. I mean, granted, they brought Bailey back as a heel when she came back from her ACL injury, but she had a hell of a run, so, and
She
still is
still is.
on a good run. Yeah, damage controls. I love the damage control segments. I think they're great, and so I mean, I'm comparing apple and oranges right now, but I think Cora Jade is. I think the sky's the limit with her. I really do. I think NXT's women's division is top notch. I've used that word twice, 2 or 3 times already, I think, but they got a good thing going. Cora Jade will come back. She'll be strong as hell, be ready to go on TV, and I think you need to bring her back as a face, because I think the crowd will want that. So it absolutely sucks. She, like you said, she got injured at a NXT house show in Fort Pierce this past weekend. So it sucks. I hate that she got hurt, and I hope she gets better. I hope she returns soon, because she's good. She's real good.
No, you're absolutely right in that, because of the fact that the crowd is just all in on who she is and stuff, and the back end of the stories, like her and Punk and everything, and it made it a lot more interesting to see the growth of it. I would love to see, as this is crazy to say this, I would love to see Izzy, you know, the interview that you're gonna have to go see on Friday that Sean does with her, um, on Fightful. I would love to see her in NXT, but I would love to see her first match would be Cora coming back and Cora making fun of her past and stuff. That would be interesting, because that would set up Cora and stuff like that. People tell me all the time she's made for the main roster. She's ready for the main roster. I get that she might be ready for the main roster, but it's a matter of fact on how well her rehab progresses. I literally thought out of everybody in the Rumble for NXT, she would have been the first person in the Rumble this year for NXT, just to lead the charge on that.
Yeah,
And I've said it out loud publicly too.
I could see that. I could have seen that, rather.
So we're gonna wrap this up. This is this week's NXT. Like I said, we'll talk about all the stuff. And we're back on Wicked Crazy Pinfalls. We're gonna try to figure out what time slot to go into. We'll talk to everybody about it. I mean, I love doing this. This has always been a passion of mine and stuff, and now I have more flexibility to do it. It's also therapeutic too. So as I say to everybody, Rob, tell them where you can find them.
You can find me at Rob Wilkins on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it. I'm on Instagram at FightfulRob, and I'm on Threads at FightfulRob. Every Friday at 3 o'clock Eastern on Fightful Overbooked, I co-host a show called Coexisting with Rob and Maggie. We just have a good old time for an hour and a half and talk wrestling, all the action that went down, the news of the week, just a good old time. It is a show that is definitely not for children, so but it's a good time. So make sure you join. Next week, tomorrow we'll be talking about Cora Jade's injury. We'll be talking about Cody Rhodes and CM Punk. They're going to meet in the ring. They're not going to have a match on Monday, but they're going to meet in the ring. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk. We're just going to review what we liked about AEW, NXT, Raw, and then next week we will be doing our Royal Rumble predictions. So it's going to be good times.
Dude, I gotta hop on that. I gotta make my prediction soon. It's just gonna be fun. It's that time of year. It's January. We're heading closer and closer to WrestleMania and Stand and Deliver. Other than that, You can find me at Throwback 978 on the X or the Twitter, or whatever you want to call it. Twitch, you're watching it right now. If you are, it's Throwback 978 on the Twitch, and also Throwback 27 on YouTube. I'm always around if anybody needs to talk. It's always good to have interactions and conversations, whether it's, Twitter or whatever you want to call it, or just, any way, shape, or form. I'm always around, even if you need somebody to listen. It might be helpful. I know from personally talking to somebody helps. So, an instance, well, that's why we'll just say, hey, do a good deed, pay it forward. Just have fun, enjoy life. From Rob Wilkins to me, just enjoy your Thursday. Good night, y'all.